Hello and welcome. My name is Tommy the Keyblade Master, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing another response to Alloy 7's Gamer Life, and that is, do video games need stories? And the answer is yes and no. Alright, let's get back to the basics. The old school games didn't have much narrative at all. I think the very first video game to actually have any type of narrative, if you want to call it at all, was Donkey Kong. You gotta rescue Pauline by jumping over barrels, basically. And then later that expanded. The first game to actually have a real narrative that I can remember is the NES classic Ninja Gaiden, which had these cutscenes that would play between the levels. You could skip those and still be fine, though. And as things kind of grew up, stories kind of got bigger as the technology changed. One of the things I have said is video games of the past were more about action and skill. Today, it's more about the experience. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying they're different. And because it's more of an experience, I think game developers want to push stories. And the easiest way to do that is through the cinematic cutscene. That said, there are other ways of doing it. One of my favorite Star Wars games is Knights of the Old Republic. In that one, you get to choose how you build your character through choices in the story. While you still end up at a ending of the game, it is still somewhat of a very linear game. Your choices, change the type of stats you get and who you get in your party. If you choose the Jedi, you're going to have more light force skills. If you choose choices that are more common to the Sith, you're going to have a whole bunch of dark power forces at your command. And if you choose somewhat both sides, you'll have a mixed bag of both. And it's kind of up to you what your character wants to be, as well as what choices you want to make in the game, because not all the light forces or dark forces choices are going to necessarily lead you into easy circumstances. So I like how that one was done. Another way of telling a game's story sometimes can be like Metroid Prime as well, which doesn't have much of any dialogue. Metroid Prime 3 had a little bit, but doesn't have much dialogue or any type of cutscenes. But as you go through the story, you can scan computer terminals of either the Space Pirates or the Chozo and find out what's been happening on the planet that Samus is visiting. And I kind of like that. You don't have to stop for the story if you don't want to, but if you want to collect the data logs and find out exactly what's been going on here, it helps. So I like that one. Now, as far as the cinematic stories themselves, are they good or bad? And my thoughts are, it just depends on the story. Is the story engrossing enough to make you want to keep playing the game, or is it getting in your way? One of the things that I've seen where the story actually brought the game down was in the original Assassin's Creed. One of the reasons why I hated that game was not only was the story repetitive, making the gameplay feel even more repetitive, but I hated the character of Altair. He's a douchebag. I hated him. And the idea was, well, he's supposed to go from jerk to hero. Yeah, I just finished playing another game right before I played the original Assassin's Creed called Tales of the Abyss, which had the similar plot line done more correctly. You actually saw Luke, who was the hero of that one, go from arrogant jerk to somewhat noble hero, and actually explained why. You never saw that with Altair, and then you just compounded all the problems I had with that gameplay. But it's not always bad. Sometimes a story can actually be compelling and bring out more gameplay and make it better. Tales games, for example, most of them have plots that are very Japanese cliche. However, one of the reasons why I like playing those games is you get to know the characters better. Even if the plot they're going through is one that you've seen a million times in anime or other JRPGs, you get to know the characters better. You'll have things like, at the end of the battle, you'll have a few quick, short cutscenes letting you know how these characters are interacting with each other. Or, while you're traveling the road, you'll have the option to press select and you'll see a little cutscene about just the characters bantering. And they're trying in the Tales series, I think, to expand that even more. Zillia 2, and it failed just a little bit on this, but it was a good attempt. Does allow you to answer your characters, in those middle of these little dialogue things. And which character you side with will give you a boost during battle. And you, of course, can't max out all your friendship, at least not in one run with everybody, because you're going to be forced to choose sides in some of their arguments. It's an interesting idea. It didn't work fully, but it's an interesting idea. And another thing about video game stories nowadays that I do find compelling is that they bring us gamers together on YouTube better because of some of their stories. Okami, which is a very interesting Japanese game by Capcom, involves a lot of their myths. So you have a bunch of YouTube videos by people like Gaijin Goomba explaining the myths that are behind the game's story. And that game does have a narrative. It's not a long one, but it does have a narrative. So in the end, do I think they're good or bad? It just depends. Is the story good? Is it in the way? And that is something that JRPGs do stumble on sometimes. Now, I can understand needing a long cutscene to explain something like the penultimate or ultimate climax of the game. You do want the narrative to get a little deeper there than normal. But if you're routinely making cutscenes that are over 10 minutes long and just keep on yapping for no reason other than to yap, I'm going to go make myself a sandwich. Just saying. So, again, to developers, make sure that the story is compelling, make sure that it's understandable, and make sure that it's not in the way of the gameplay. The game should be the main course. Story should be a good side dish. And if the story is getting in the way of the gameplay to such a degree, yes, it will turn gamers off. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. This is Tommy the Keyblade Master signing out.